We are here to talk about a hot topic, which is flooding, potential flooding coming our way with this wonderful heavy snowpack we've had. This is something that's been top of mind, and citizens have been inquiring and calling and texting and emailing and stopping me in the grocery store. So I thought it'd be fun today for me to be a citizen and sit here and ask the questions I've been being asked and get the professional to answer them. So first question, Dave, is everyone is wondering about the potential flooding this year with the record snowpack we have received. So what has the city been doing to prepare for flooding?
So we've been at some preparations for about a month and a half or 2 months now, and you can actually see behind us one of the results of that preparation. So, you know, obviously one of the key components is getting sandbags. We've ordered a lot of sandbags. The city has a lot on hand, and we're actually starting to fill those sandbags for emergency purposes. We also have sandbags that are available for residents to pick up. They can come to Public Works and pick up a bundle of sandbags. We even have sand for them to fill their own sandbags. They have to bring their own shovel, but they can fill sandbags for their own use on their property. That's just one item that we've been preparing for flooding, potential flooding over the last month and a half or 2 months.
Okay, perfect. And there's a lot of sandbags. I mean, we're not talking, just throw out an estimated number we have right now.
We have over 200,000 sandbags ready to go in the city.
Plus more to come if we need them. We're ready to go.
We have more on order.
Yes. All right. So you heard that. Okay, question number 2. What different factors play into possible flooding?
So springtime weather plays a big factor. Obviously the snowpack is a big issue, and we have record-breaking, in some cases record-breaking snow, especially along the frontal peaks of Provo. But springtime is one of the main concerns that we have. And most residents know we're having a much cooler, much colder springtime and a very wet springtime. Those are both factors that work against us in spring flooding. And so we're concerned if this pattern continues, and there's every indication that it will continue. We get into mid-May or early June and it suddenly decides to become summertime and we see 80 or 90 degree weather in the valley. That's probably the worst case scenario for us.
Okay. What areas in the city are at the highest risk of potential flooding?
So along the river, any resident homes along the Provo River are one of the main concerns. We also have frontal canyons, so Slate Canyon, Rock Canyon, and Little Rock Canyon are considered frontal canyons. There's also several other smaller drainages along the bench, but those are our main concerns. So we are watching those very carefully.
Great. All right. The fourth question, are sandbags available to residents?
They are. Like I indicated, residents can come to Public Works and pick up a bundle of sandbags. We have sand also for them to fill the sandbags. So, and we encourage residents, if they are concerned, if they've experienced flooding, you know, particularly in their home before, sandbags are available for them.
So come on down and let's get you going with them.
Yep.
Okay, question number 5. What is the best thing residents can do to minimize the potential for flooding around their home?
So flooding, especially residents that have experienced flooding before, and if it's surface flooding, we generally see window wells or something, you know, entering a basement, a lower level of the home. And so protecting the lower level and entries for water into the home. We've also encouraged residents, particularly on the west side of the city, we get concerned about rising shallow groundwater as being the issue. So it's not so much surface water or just surface water, but residents that have a sump pump or, you know, some kind of a mechanism to get water out of their basement. Make sure that that's operational, ready to go, because we anticipate rising groundwater as well.
Just water everywhere.
Yep.
All right. What new infrastructure is in place to help with flooding?
So a lot of people, you know, remember past flooding, and the city, you know, has done I think the city has done an excellent job over the years, probably over the last 30 or 40 years, in preparing for repeats of flooding in the past. So most people know that there's a debris basin on Rock Canyon that has been built since that time. We also have several smaller basins on Slate Canyon, and some major storm drain improvements in both of those areas should help to be able to carry some of the flood water away.
Perfect. All right, what are the diversion routes for floodwater?
So we actually have maps that are pre-prepared that we can hand out for volunteers and also city crews in building any diversion structures, temporary diversion structures that we need, particularly in Slate Canyon and Rock Canyon and Little Rock Canyon. So we actually have identified a location already for each of those canyons that we would build a temporary sandbag diversion.
Perfect. So the Public Works will go up and build that. The citizens will just wonder what's being built, but it's for their own good.
It is. And we would be able to use volunteers in that case because it would be a pretty massive effort if that is required to happen this spring.
Well, I'll be there to help.
Thank you. And I'll be there too.
I know. So will the city, this just leads into our next question, will the city need volunteers if flooding happens, and how would they be able to help?
We could, and again, over the next month, it's going to tell us a lot about what happens, come probably around the 1st of May. And we've already contacted several volunteer organizations so that we've kind of put them on alert. They know that we may need some help, and they've been really good to work with. And we're actually going to use some of those volunteer organizations next week to start to fill sandbags that you see happening behind us.
Which will be great because Provo loves to volunteer. So I think all we'd have to do is ask, and we would have everyone that possibly could volunteer would be out there helping.
They've been very good.
Yes. Okay. The snow is bringing a lot of critical water that we need as a state. How will this water help us, and what will happen to the excess water?
So this is a key question, and particularly for Provo City, we have been focused on this. You're going to see, and residents are going to see this spring, a really good example of nature giving us lots of extra water. And there's some needs downstream. There's lots of conversation about the Great Salt Lake and Utah Lake being low. But it's interesting where we get a mammoth, a huge amount of extra water. We're really not capable of storing it for long periods of time. It ends up going into Utah Lake, and especially that excess water is far beyond any water right or environmental need, and it's just wasted. It evaporates. Huge amounts of water evaporate out of Utah Lake, and then it's not available 3 or 4 years later when we're back in a drought.
Yes.
And that's really when we need it. And so
Exactly.
we've worked really hard. You know well, we've worked really hard to try to get an ASR program going because it's very much needed, and it doesn't seem like anybody else is stepping up to the plate to solve the water management issue that we face in the state.
Well, we will, because that's what we do.
We do.
We want to lead out and be the good example. So, Dave, I have one other question that I was thinking of. You have been working tirelessly on the river and what that looks like to help with this flooding that's potentially coming our way. Can you tell the citizens some of the things you've been doing?
Yes. So part of the work that we started a month and a half, 2 months ago, relates to the river and cleaning out dead trees and sandbars, gravel bars that form in the river. And there's a permit process that we have to go through, and so that's been, a part of our effort over the last 2 months in getting those permits and ready to go. And so residents are probably seeing equipment clearing out parts of the river in preparation to maximize the capacity in the river, and so that's one of the major components that we've been working over the last couple of months.
So folks see like backhoes pulling stuff out of the river, they'll know it's all in the name of
Yep.
protection for flooding and enough to let water come down the river without being dispersed out.
Yeah, and sometimes it's smaller crews with hand tools working on clearing dead wood. They're going to see a lot of activity in the river.
That's all the questions I've received from citizens. Is there anything else that I've missed that you want to make sure the residents are aware of?
I think one thing that is important to know when the flooding does start, and it's very, very likely that we're going to see some flooding on the Provo River. I think it's important for residents to know they really need to stay away from the water, especially with small children. You know, it's a dangerous situation. We've had issues in the past, and I think it's really important for people to understand you know, it can be very dangerous, and so we ask residents to stay away from the floodwaters.
All right, that's good to know. And then I wanted to also mention to the citizens, we are sending out a newsletter that, thank you Dave, has been very engaged with us in pulling together. And in that newsletter, we'll have all the information you need for the upcoming flooding. And one of the key components of that is there is all sorts of ways to get emergency texts. There are ways to sign up to get what we call Everbridge. And these are all alert systems that can come straight to your phone, that can come to your email, letting you know that you need to get ready for potential flooding coming your way. So I encourage you to grab your newsletter and the utility bill this coming cycle of utility bills and sign up for those emergency alerts in case you haven't had a chance to. This is your chance, and that will be one great way of getting information to you. In the meantime, we will keep pushing out all kinds of current information through all our social media channels and e-blasts and the mayor's blog. We are here to inform you, and we want you to be literally over-informed on this flooding situation. That's our plan and that's our goal, because we want to serve you the best we can in this situation. So again, thanks Dave for joining me.
Thank you, Mayor.